Welcome to Self-Represented in Family Court. Your host, Tracey Bee. That's me. So, here we discuss strategies. Yes, strategies and how to use them to get the results you want in family court. If you're self-represented, pro se, pro per, or if you have an attorney and you just need to know what it takes to get through this complex family court system we have, this is the place to be. We discuss strategy. We discuss tactics. We discuss tips and tricks. We discuss techniques. We discuss secrets. We discuss it all. Whatever it takes to get you the strategy that you need, that's it. That's here. That's what we do. So sit back, take notes, and kick ass. Hello there. I'm back. It's me, Tracey Bee, and you're listening to Self-Represented in Family Court. Yes, it's 2025. Happy New Year to all of you. And I just wanted to say I'm back. I'm officially back. I needed to take a break because I needed to sort of reformat. Oh, I put those two words together. Brilliant. Not just my podcast, but the way I actually approach the people that I help, my business values and its services. And so in the last few months, I decided to do a little bit more self-reflection so that I can be the best and give you the best of services and information as well. So I made a few changes in my business and in my podcast. Let's start with the podcast. First of all, I'm going to really focus on people who are pro se by choice. Yes. If you are in family court dealing with custody and divorce, even if it's post-divorce, you're going back to court, you're considering going back to court. If you are pro se by choice, then a lot of my content will be directed at you. If you are lawyer represented, then a lot of my content will be directed at you. I want to throw in that nothing I say should be construed as giving legal advice. If you have an attorney, get legal advice from your attorney. I am simply here to help you help your attorney, actually, and help your case if you have an attorney, to understand, to fill in the blanks, to cover the gaps, to, sort of help you make decisions best for you. And so I decided to do that because I wanted to be a little bit more responsible. Yes, responsible in the way I actually encourage people or acquiesce when people come to me and say that they're pro se. And there's a lot of reasons why I've decided to do this. I decided to do some self-reflection and some value checking and all of that stuff. And one of the main reasons is that 2024 was such a roller coaster ride. It was such a roller coaster ride. I had so many things happen in my business, happen to me spiritually and personally, that I needed to take a step back and sort of make sense of it all. And that's what I did from April up until about October. No, actually till December. I actually used that time to do much more self-reflection and just take an internal audit of where I was and who I was and what I intended to do, what legacy I intended to leave behind. And because of all of that, I decided to shift my focus and be a little bit more responsible in the way I actually put information out there. I don't care about what anybody else does. I don't care about what anybody else says. I care about leaving an impact, making an impression on the collective consciousness while I'm here. That's what we're all here for. We're all here to leave something good behind, making an impact that's beneficial to humanity. It's not just about acquiring things for ourselves, whether it be material things, intangible things, whatever it is. We are also here to actually make an impression to the collective consciousness, to humanity, to make a difference, to make an impact, to leave something good that people can actually identify once you've transitioned. And so that's where I am right now. So yes, that was a hard, long, painful journey, and I'm always doing it. But 2024 definitely threw some curveballs to me, and I was forced to take a step back and, like I said, do some reflection. So here we are. So I also want to say again, anything I say is not to be construed as legal advice. Even though I am a lawyer, I am not your lawyer, and I'm not giving legal advice. What I'm doing is giving you strategic information, strategic insight, skills on how to think strategically, how to see a case from a strategic perspective without giving you legal advice. And because of that, I can't advise you on your case. I won't advise you on your case. I will recommend where you can find information on specific issues that you have in your case, but I will not advise you on your case. I cannot do that. I will not do that. So that being said, I also wanted to stress that when I talk to people, when I work with people, I like to really understand what their goals are, what their objectives are, what their resources are, what their tolerance level is, a myriad of things. And I do that because when I work with people, I work with them so they can see things from beyond what they're dealing with right in front of them. What does that mean? That means I like to help people see that there's so many facets and layers that their case, that their life actually, because when you're in family court, it's your entire life that's involved, not just an aspect of it, it's everything. Family court, family law can spill over into your career, your health, your mental health, your relationships, your everything, everything, your finances, of course. So I like to help people see what they're going through from all perspectives so that they can make informed decisions, not just make decisions in a tunnel or in a vacuum, but they understand how decisions they make in their family court case, in their family law case, spills over into other aspects of their case. And why am I telling you this? Because I understand that when you are self-represented or when you're pro se, there's so many different angles in that alone. There's so many different agendas, motives, goals, objectives, circumstances as being pro se alone. Never mind all the other stuff that comes along when you're embroiled in a family court case. Which brings me to today's topic. I actually wanted to take a few steps back and talk about different aspects of being pro se, because I am shifting gears and I decided that when I put information out, when I work with people, it's really directed to people who are pro se by choice, not by force, by choice, and lawyer represented individuals. And again, I must stress, if you're lawyer represented, I am not giving legal advice. If you have an attorney, you should listen to your attorney. If you don't trust your attorney, then that's a whole nother episode. But so I am talking to you if you're self-represented by choice, you're pro se by choice, or you are lawyer represented. But today I'm going to delve into what does it mean to be pro se. What different types of pro se are there? So pro se means you're, representing yourself, right? You're going to court to advocate for yourself. You're making moves, decisions about your case on your own. You're doing your own motions. You're doing your own petitions. You're doing your own hearings. You're doing your own discovery. You're doing your own investigations if necessary. You're doing your own trial even, right? You're even arranging the logistics of having the other party served, of getting recordings, of getting information from third parties, etc., etc., etc. Now, I've actually started in the last half of last year, I started actually separating self-represented and pro se. And actually, I did that subconsciously, not realizing that I was going to get to this point. So self-represented to me is a little bit beyond pro se. Pro se, you can be pro se by force. You don't. Not everybody wants to be pro se. They don't have a choice. But when you self-represent, that implies that you've actually decided to represent yourself. You had a choice in the matter, and you chose to represent yourself. And so there's a difference. But for today's topic, I'm just going to break down what it means to be pro se. I'm just going to stick with the pro se, and self-represented may actually fall into that, but I'm just going to stay with the term of pro se to simplify things. So, pro se by force. I would imagine most people who are pro se in family court are pro se by force. I don't know about data and numbers as far as what percentage. I know there's a huge percentage of especially since the pandemic. A huge portion of the family court litigants, parties, individuals are actually pro se. They are representing themselves. And most of them are representing themselves by force. They don't have a choice. They don't have the resources. They don't have the means to hire an attorney. And so they're in there trying to figure it out. I will say, of all the categories, there's 3 categories of pro se. I would say the pro se by force are the most vulnerable. They're the most susceptible to being actually mistreated, mishandled, and ultimately getting decisions or orders or results in their case that are 100% unfavorable to them. And why do I say that? Because if you're forced to be pro se, there's so many things that goes along with that. Yes, and there's generally a specific target, a specific population that is more likely to be pro se by force. And unfortunately, that is people who are what's classified as poor or of little means. It's people who don't have, who are not natives of this country or first generation here. People who don't speak English as their first language. It goes on and on and on. I don't want to, stigmatize, and I don't want to give people a false impression, but I'm speaking from my experience. And although my experience is limited to a few states as an attorney, my experience as a family court strategist is across the gamut. I speak to people from all over the world about family court and family law. So, and it's my experience that the most of the pro se by force population are people who have little means, like I said, not native to this country, don't speak English natively, etc. Of course, there are other variables depending on where you are. There's pro se people by force because not just because of their means or lack thereof. Some people are pro se by force because the complex issues in their cases or the potential for conflict of interest because of where they're located, where they're situated, they can't get an attorney to handle their case. For some reason, they can't get an attorney to represent them. It's complicated. It's complex to even find an attorney willing to take their case on. And believe it or not, that happens a lot. That happens way more than I actually thought it did. But it does happen. It does happen. And it's unfortunate because there's little that one can do when they're stuck in that position. But they're pro se by force. And then there's the pro se by choice. Those are the ones that I usually classify as self-represented because they choose to represent their case. And the population of pro se by choice or self-represented is growing. Yeah, before people choosing or opting to be pro se or self-represented, maybe 10, 15 years ago, was almost non-existent. Now, with the influx of information, the internet, social media, the list goes on. There's more people willing to take the chance, willing to actually put themselves out there and represent themselves in their family court case. And you know what? They are the ones that are usually more strategic because it takes strategy to know, to develop the skills that it takes to represent yourself, and especially to do it successfully, especially if the issues are complex. But I mean, there's so many resources out there now to help people who choose to be pro se. I mean, there's coaches all over the place. There's people like me who are strategists. There's a myriad of things. There's even attorneys who will do limited scope. So there's so many things. And yes, they're still considered self-represented because the limited scope attorneys do not make appearances. They're not the attorney of record, I should say. They may make appearances, but they're not the attorney of record. That means that they're not going to be automatically notified of things in the case, and they're not going to be held to show up for hearings in trial if they're limited scope attorneys. And some states allow that, and the states that do allow that, they actually specify what attorneys can and cannot do. So, but I still classify the litigants, the parties, the individuals that do that as pro se by choice, as self-represented. And those are the ones, their reasons. A lot of times they've gone through several attorneys and they just feel like they can do a better job than their attorneys do or have done. Some of them have done research beforehand and decided that, they can do it on their own because of all the research and all the resources that they have available to them and accessible to them. And then some people just, they just decided, hey, you know what? Let me give this a try. I want to see what happens. But those are the ones that actually use a little bit more strategy because it takes stellar communication skills, organizational skills, problem solving skills, critical thinking skills, research skills. It takes a lot of those skills to actually, and some people don't start out with those skills. Some people develop those skills as they go along in their case. And that's great. I've worked with people who started out and didn't have a clue to self-represent. Yes, quite a few of them had attorneys and decided they didn't want to go that route anymore for whatever reason. But a lot of them didn't have those skills, but they developed them along the way. And actually, a couple of them prevailed in their cases. I worked with them and so I helped them. But a few of them actually prevailed in what they set out to do in their cases. And then there's the last one, pro se, what I call the pro se hybrid. So some of them say, you know what? I'm going to see if pro se is working out for me. I'm going to try it out. I'm going to test the waters. And then there's some people who say, I want to do pro se because I want to see if I need to hire an attorney. I want to get a feel for the process so that I have better idea of what to look for in an attorney. And then some people say, you know what, I know I'm going to get an attorney, but I'm just in between attorneys and this case needs to still proceed. So I'm going to represent myself by choice. And then there's some people who say, I'm only going to be pro se for part of my case. And then at some point, I know I'm going to hire an attorney for example, for the hearing portion of my case. And so those people are what I call hybrid people because they're not necessarily self-representing, but they're not necessarily pro se either. They're like a bit of each. And those people are usually the most strategic because they're really plotting out exactly what they need to do. Like they're thinking ahead of time and they're paying attention and they're assimilating information and they're acquiring information and they're doing their research and they're doing the legwork and they're developing those skills if they may already have those skills necessary to self-represent. But they're a hybrid, so they're a little bit more strategic because they actually thought about the fact that they may want to be pro se and they may not, but they're making more informed decisions than a pro se litigant, of course, and maybe more than a pro se by choice or a self-represented litigant. So those are the three. So who do I prefer to work with? The pro se by choice and the hybrid. And why is it so incredibly helpful for me to help those of you who are pro se by choice and or hybrid? Because a lot of the answers that you need, that you're gonna need to help you make more informed decisions that you want to make, you understand the importance of making more informed decisions. You understand the need for you to think critically about every aspect, every layer of your case, and you're okay with doing that work. So sometimes you need guidance, though, to find answers. Sometimes you don't even know the questions to ask. Sometimes you don't even know which answer makes more sense to you. Sometimes you need that to decide which decision or which move is best for you. Sometimes you need to understand the possible consequences of each decision or each move you decide to make. And so you need that guidance. You want that guidance because you're not making decisions on a whim, in a vacuum. You're making decisions because you understand that there's multi layers, multi facets, multi aspects of every phase of your case. And you understand how everything overlaps. But you also understand that there's going to be gaps. There's going to be missing information. There's going to be a lot of questions. There's going to be wrong answers. You're going to be inundated with information and support and suggestions and referrals and recommendations. You want to question those too. And that's where I come in at, is I help you do all of that. You want that guidance? That's exactly what I do. So if you're pro se by force, you're not going to necessarily understand the need to do your own research, or to do your own legwork, or to make more informed decisions, or to anticipate the consequences, or to plot out the possible moves you're going to make in light of those consequences, and so on and so on. And no insult to you. It's just that a lot of times what I've noticed is people who are pro se by force, they don't really have a lot of extra time, a lot of extra resources to help them focus on all of those things. They are making decisions in a tunnel, in a vacuum. They are making decisions out of fear, out of desperation. They are making decisions for today. They are not necessarily, and whatever the reason is, there's nothing wrong with that. We all are at different places in our journey. Even in our family court journeys, you're all going to be in different places. And it's not to say someone who's pro se by force will never become self-represented or pro se by choice or the hybrid. It never says, no one ever says that someone who's forced to be pro se can never have a lawyer. They change. Things change in family court in a millisecond. And so does representation. So does any aspect of your case. But for me, I need to work with people who understand that doing their own legwork, doing their own part of the work is incredibly important. And that work consists of a mindset shifts. It's working on emotions. It's, like I said, working on communications. It's working on problem solving. It's working on every aspect of being strategic, every aspect of critical thinking, every aspect of problem solving, every aspect of making informed decisions. People who are pro se by choice tend to be somewhere near there or already there. And particularly people who are pro se hybrid, a lot of times they are as well. Now, the people who are pro se by force and who might get an attorney or deciding if they need an attorney, they are not hybrid. That's not hybrid. Because if you're pro se by force and you're at some point thinking that you're gonna hire an attorney, and I mean hire an attorney. I don't mean legal aid. I don't mean pro bono. That's not hybrid. That is not hybrid. That is pro se by force. Even if you wind up getting a pro bono attorney, legal services, legal aid, whatever it's called in your area, to me, you're still considered pro se by force, even though you have representation. And the reason is, when you have pro bono representation, a lot of times that representation is very limited. You're not, no offense to any of you good brothers and sisters who are doing pro bono work, especially in family court, because it's not easy, but you're not going to get top tier professional legal representation from a pro bono attorney or legal services or someone like that. You're not going to. I'm sorry. If you're pro se by force and you have a coach, you're still pro se by choice. You're not hybrid. Okay, to me, there's a difference. And I'm basing my opinion, and I preface that, I emphasize that it's my opinion on my professional experience for the last 20 plus years in the field of family law / family court, my research, and my just listening and watching and observing my audience. Not just my audience, other people's audience. So I make informed decisions too. I'm a strategist. That's what I do. Everything I do, everything I say is backed up by empirical data. Whether it can be actually quantified is another show, because people who say, oh, 95% of or 30% of in family court, that is impossible. Family court is one of the most difficult areas of law, especially to actually come up with specific data that's nationwide. Some states, some courts, some court administration or whomever does that portion of the research are able to, or better able to provide those numbers, those statistics, those data. But anything that's across the board, I question it. Anyone who says, certain things and they quantify it across the board, I always question it, because it's, where are they getting that information from? So anyway, I digress. So if the pros and cons of each. The pros of there are very little pros of being pro se by force. I'm sorry. There are very little pros. I mean, I'm talking legally, practically, financially, mentally, physically. It wears on you in every aspect, especially if you've been pro se by force for a long period of time. It just doesn't really get any better. Especially, again, if there's certain topics involved, like sexual abuse allegations or parental alienation or things of that nature. Pro se by force, dealing with those issues, it's sometimes it just doesn't get any better. So I can't think of any pros. I just mentioned all the cons. One thing I will say, if you're pro se by force and you've been pro se by force for a bit of time now, my suggestion is, and someone asked me this recently, what resources are there that's reliable, that's consistent? There's none. Unfortunately, there's none. And I know it's so unfair, because no one wants to be enthralled in a family court situation for years and have to be tortured by being by being pro se. No one wants that. And so, add on the problem of very limited resources out there available to you. It just makes it that much more undesirable and that much more daunting. I get it. I totally get it. And I wish I had a magic bullet for you. I just don't. If you're pro se by choice and you've been pro se by choice most of your case, the only thing I would suggest is considering a settlement, considering a way to resolve your issues for now. And to sort of do that, at least do that in a way where if you decided, if things changed down the line, that you don't put yourself at a disadvantage so that you can't take advantage of those changes down the line. That's the most I have for you, unfortunately. I mean, of course, you do your research. Of course, please stay off social media getting advice from other people who have no experience in your specific case, with your specific judge, with your specific key players. Please don't do that, please. And I know so many people, so many of you get so desperate. You have to go to the groups. You have to go to social media. You have to do whatever you think is necessary. I think that makes things worse. I really do. I've been watching people for the last 4 years, and I realized the ones who are pro se by force are the ones who just keep digging a hole, a deeper hole, a wider hole, and it's harder to get out of, because they're listening to people who are just advising them blindly, giving them generic advice and telling them what to do, and they're listening and they're following because they're so desperate and they're so afraid. And I totally get it, but I think that's the worst that you can do. I really honestly do. And I understand when your back is against the wall and you're trying to get your kids back, or you're trying to get your portion of the assets, marital assets, or just to give financial support. I get it. I totally get it. But I just think taking advice from people who don't know anything about your case and just making assessments and observations and drawing conclusions based on the limited information that you give, because there's always two sides, at least two sides, then not listening to the other side. I think that's totally, totally, totally irresponsible of them, and completely, completely dangerous for you. So that's the one thing I will, warn you of. Be very careful about doing that. And the pros and cons of pro se by choice. So there are pros and cons. There are pros to being pro se by choice, specifically if you are the kind of person that has those skills that I mentioned a minute ago. I've worked with several people who are pro se by choice, several, and a few of them were amazing. I mean, they do better research than my paralegals. They know how to make legal arguments. They know how to organize. Why did they work with me? Because they wanted to make sure they were dotting their I's and crossing their T's. They're not lawyers. They wanted me to sort of help them understand the judge, understand the dynamics of the courtroom or the key players. They wanted to understand a little bit more about the issues, whatever it is, whatever it was. But a lot of them, the pros were that they were good at research and to get better. One of my clients told me that she learned so much that she actually two decided. One decided to go to law school or applied to law school, and the other one decided to go to paralegal, to become a paralegal. Actually, and another one, I forgot what she said, but she said, well, the third one said that she learned so much that she doesn't think she'll ever hire a lawyer again, which I thought was amazing. Not everybody can do that, though. That's certainly not for everybody. Certainly, pro se by choice or self-representing is not for everybody. Some people think they can do it, and some people have come to me and said, I want to do this. I want to try and see. And they, we got through it, and they said, you know what? I decided to hire an attorney. And that's great. That's great. Those are pro se hybrid, which, I will get to. But so the pros are you develop the skills. Your confidence level goes through the roof. I cannot tell you how many people have come back to me and said, that I've worked with, and said, you know what? I didn't necessarily quote unquote win, but my confidence was so much better because of what you taught me or what you showed me or what we worked on. And that is more rewarding than anything else I do when I work with people, because that's why I do this. I have a background in mental health. That was my first profession. And so there's always this part of me that wants to work on people, not just the practical side of what they're going through in family court, but the mental and the emotional. And of course, I'm not a certified or licensed mental health professional, but I still have that aspect of me that wants to see people win in life and wants to see people understand that although there's a myriad of clouds they're going through, there's a silver lining in there somewhere. And so the people, my clients, my past clients who come back to me and say, I felt so empowered because I knew what to say and I understood more what was going on. And you made me feel like, everything wasn't hopeless or helpless, or you made me understand that it wasn't me that was crazy. And so I felt more a grounding. I felt more confident. I felt more like I knew what I was doing. And so, like I said, even though the result or the outcome wasn't exactly the way I planned, the overall experience, the journey to getting there was rewarding. And so for me, that is rewarding. And those are the pros, the major pros of being pro se by choice. Again, not everybody can do that, because I'll tell you, if you don't have really good researching skills, like if you cannot or don't have the time to research and research and research, and not just research, but understand what you're researching, understand what you're looking for, understand how it applies to you in your case, then pro se is not necessarily for you. Because I don't care how well you speak, I don't care how much you watch Law and Order. If you don't know how to research and find information on your own, you are going to flop. You're going to fail. You're going to not get what you're actually trying to get or accomplish what you're actually trying to accomplish. So I just want to put that out there. But the pros are, if you decide to do that and you have those skills or you have the ability, if you don't know, ask me. Let's do a strategy session. Ask me. I will tell you. I've told many people in meetings, hey, listen, you may not. I would ask them questions. I even have a pro se quiz. I would ask them questions and I would tell them what it's going to take. And I would say to them, honestly, you can do it. Honestly, I don't think this is the time for you to do it. I don't think you should try this. Either hire an attorney or settle your case and revisit that issue or revisit some of those issues later on down the line. So I'll let you know. Based on what I know, I'm a pro se advocate. Of course, I'm going to say go be pro se, but I'm being more responsible now. You may not be able to be pro se. You may not be able to handle any portion of your case pro se. You may not be able to handle major portions of your case pro se. You may not be able to handle any part of your case pro se. Hey, if you don't know and you need some insight or some clarification, feel free to set up a call with me. And so the cons of pro se is the courts still are not that friendly to pro se or self-represented. Whether you're self-represented by choice or not, they're still not that kind. They still don't, some courts still do not prefer that pro se self-represented litigants show up in their courtrooms. So what does that mean? That means that you may not get the respect that the other represented party gets. You may not get the courtesies of having your evidence admitted or reviewed or seen by the judge. You may not get the courtesies of being put on notice of certain things the way you're supposed to. The list goes on and on. But again, if you're ready to do that, if you're ready to take on all those challenges, if you know what your rights are, if you know how to circumvent those, if you know how to play the game, if you learn those things, you may still prevail. I've had pro se self-represented litigants win, quote unquote win. They set out goals and they accomplish their goals. I've worked with people who won hearings and trials being pro se. I have. Yes, I have. And then the pros and cons of being a pro se hybrid or a self-represented hybrid. Well, you get to try things out. You get to see. You get to make more informed decisions about not just your case, but how you are going to strategically present your case. By representation, by limited representation, by co-representation, by, temporary representation, unrepresentation, whatever it is. You get to decide. You get to choose. And so all the same benefits, all the same pros of being pro se or self-represented by choice applies to you. Now the cons are sometimes when you're in between attorneys and the judge is aware of that, the judge may actually force you to do things or refrain from doing things until you get the other attorney or the new attorney. Again, sometimes judges are not necessarily biased against pro se or self-represented litigants. Sometimes they're more biased in favor of representation, if that makes any sense. They're not the same. They're not. It sounds like I said the same thing, but they're not. A judge may be anti-pro se, self-representing, or a judge could be pro lawyer representation. So they're not the same thing, because being pro se being anti-pro se doesn't necessarily mean a judge is in favor of you being lawyer represented. The judge may be okay with you having limited scope representation, So they're not the same thing. So the cons of being pro se hybrid can be the same as being pro se by choice. The same cons of being pro se by choice, but then there's the added layer, because remember, pro se hybrid are the ones who are saying, let me try it out and see. I want to, test the waters and see if I can do this on my own. Some of them are saying, I want to see if I need a new attorney, or just, figure out a way to work better with the attorney that I have. Or some are saying, I actually am going to, get rid of the attorney that I have, but the next one I hire, I need to make sure I know what to expect from them. I know how they operate. I know the strategy they're going to come up with because I know more about the family court process and family court and family law itself. Or some people are saying, I'm going to just handle me actually following my motions on my own. And every time I have the actual hearing come up, I'm going to hire an attorney then. So the cons for being the pro se hybrid are the same as being pro se by choice. But then you have that extra added layer of what the judge's take is on you, being in between attorneys, you hiring and firing attorneys. Because once you mention to a lot of judges that you're considering hiring an attorney or you plan on hiring an attorney, sometimes their tone, their direction changes. And there's a reason why, and I'm not going to talk about that today. I'll talk about that in another episode, I promise. But there are actually some pros to being pro se hybrid, even when a judge is not necessarily pro se. There are some. You get to make decisions on your own. You get access to things that you may not have access to when you have a lawyer. You get to time things. You get to ensure that things flow. Of course, there are procedural downsides too. Sometimes the judge is not going to give you courtesies, as I mentioned. Sometimes you don't understand procedure, especially if you're pro se by choice against a lawyer represented opposing party. You may be at a disadvantage, so I'm not going to, ignore that. But still, there's always going to be challenges, whether you're pro se by choice or hybrid. There's always going to be challenges. The key for you is to decide how to overcome those challenges, not to give up, but especially if you have those skills or have the propensity to develop those skills that I mentioned. The key for you is to accept those challenges. And I'm always telling people who are always reminding me of how bad family court is and how unfair it is and how broken it is, how biased it is, how corrupt it is. I'm always reminding people of the fact that I know that. I know that nothing and anything I say ignores those issues. I know all about family court. I've been in almost every position in family court except the judge. And except the forensics evaluator. But I've been the mediator. I've been even a litigant. I've been a litigant in family court. I've been the attorney for the mom, attorney for the dad. I've been a guardian ad litem, attorney for the child. So I know, and I've been in family court, for years, for decades. So I know all the truth, all the bad, all the dark, all the ugly about family court. I know that, you know that. And that's a big difference about of the people who are pro se by force. The ones who are constantly reminding me of how unfair and broken and biased and corrupt and blah, blah, blah about family court, of how family court is, they're the ones who are usually reminding me of that. So they're the ones who want to typically, from my experience, choose to say, you know what, I'm just going to make excuses and blame the family court system on the predicament I'm in, instead of saying, you know what, let me accept that this is what family court is and let me do what I can do, knowing these truths, knowing these facts about family court. Because that's what pro se by choice and pro se hybrid, that's what they do. They say, yes, I know my judge is corrupt. I know for a fact. Yes, I know that there's some sort of improprieties between attorneys. Yes, I know that. I know that there's unfairness. I know all these things. But in light of all of those things, I still choose to pursue exactly what I'm choosing to pursue, not because I'm wishing on the star, but because I have the skills, I have the resources, I have the stamina, the wherewithal to overcome those challenges, or to at least navigate those challenges. I'm not allowing those challenges to make me or force me to give up, or to force me to do the woe is me, or to force me to wear the victim hat all the time. Pro se by choice and pro se hybrid are usually the ones, from my experience, again, are usually the ones that say, you know what, you're right, Tracey. Let's get to work. Let's decide what we're going to do, knowing that all those things exist. Let's figure out ways to navigate around those or to get through those. And that's what we do. And so again, there's pro se by force, pro se by choice, pro se hybrid. Pro se by choice and pro se hybrid are self-represented. And so I use those terms interchangeably, even though I said I was just going to stick to pro se. Pro se by choice and pro se hybrid are usually the most strategic. They understand how strategy works and how strategy is used and how important it is to increase chances of succeeding. And so those are the ones that I am focusing on. Those, if that's you, I want to work with you. Even if you have an attorney, there's no conflict because I'm not going to give you any legal advice. We're just going to focus on the practical, the logical, the tactical. And we're going to look at, practical ways of interacting with your judge, tactical ways of dealing with the guardian ad litem, practical and logical ways of navigating the court procedures. We're going to do all of that. So if that is you, feel free to reach out to me. I still offer free 15-minute strategy calls. You can go to my website, www.thedivorcesolutionist.com, and fill out the form there or click on the link to schedule a free 15-minute call. And we can discuss how my services can help you, whether you're pro se by choice, hybrid, or lawyer represented. So that is all I have for you this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm glad to be back. And look for all the new stuff coming down the pike. I'm super excited. And again, I am back, so stay tuned for next week's episode. If you have any ideas, if you want to be interviewed, feel free to, again, go to my website, www.thedivorcesolutionist.com, and there's a link there where you can actually fill out the podcast interview intake form. So again, thank you so much. Happy New Year again. Until next time. Bye. I want to thank you for joining us here at Self-Representing in Family Court, where we discuss all things strategy in family court. Join us next time. Until then, visit us at www.thedivorcesolutionist.com.